Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. Thank you for joining us. We're a virtual congregation. Our building was locked up 3 years ago. It hasn't opened. We're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number does work if you'd like to contact us. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, our existence, what's going on in the world. We study Revelation. We try to solve it like algebra, one piece at a time, one formula at a time. So what are we solving today? Superbolts, thunderbolts of the gods. What is it? When would we expect this increased lightning or increased, say, thunder or a superbolt? And I'll describe what a superbolt is today. So we're noticing more variance, more issues with our weather. We're noticing this atmospheric river that's pounding central California. This is in March 8th. And right now I'm recording on the 12th of March. And so basically you're going to notice more rain in intensity and coverage, several feet of snow, just more nasty weather. Okay, and it'll get worse over time, people. Then also on the other side, a weather system to produce 880,000 lightning strikes over the Tasman Sea, moving towards South Island, New Zealand. So huge strikes, and March 8th through the 10th. You'll just notice more activity as we get closer to the end of days. So that sounds a lot like Exodus 19, which is on the third day when it was morning, and there was thunder and lightning and flashes and a thick cloud upon the mountain, and a very loud trumpet sound, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled, and Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. We should expect something similar to that as we meet God during the end of days. Okay, and you'll see that in part 4 times, Revelation 4, 11 or 4, 8, 11, and 16. So here's 11, and the temple, the naos of God, that would be the Holy of Holies up in heaven, opened in heaven, and was seen in his naos, the ark of his testaments, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. And I'll go through those verses again in context. But there's also this odd time of Revelation 10 where you have the angel saying, should I tell the people about the 7 thunders? And that had uttered their voices. And he doesn't. So could that be the superbolts that I'm talking about? So once again, Exodus 19 reminds us of Revelation 4, 8, 11, and 16. We'll go through those verses more specifically later on. And then what I'm going to do is introduce some science to you, plasma physics, very complex stuff. But you know what? Stick with it. It's worth it because you're going to want to understand the lightning and the thunder during the end of days. Okay? And there's a little bit of mysticism in this too. So the impact of changing stellar and planetary magnetic fields on exoplanetary environments and atmospheric mass loss. Those are all bad things. Keep in mind, really, really bad. When the stellar field is strengthened or the planetary field is weakened, the stellar magnetic field accumulation occurs at the day side of the planet, which forces the magnetopause to shift closer to its surface. That's a bad thing. So when the lightning gets pushed into that compact area, you're going to have superbolts. Okay, so it's biblical, yes. It's plasma physics. Keep in mind, your Bible is not a science book, but it does describe physical occurrences in plasma physics. So this is a sun-Earth danger scenario, and the scientists, the plasma physics professors, are all calling it thunderbolts of the gods, and it's going to get closer to us. So this is an article from Suspicious Observers from Ben Davidson, and I cite him most often, but there are other people that I'll cite today. So once again, you're going to see more lightning and more lightning and more lightning strikes against planes, and it's going to get dangerous. So it's going to be squeezed in through plasma physics, and then you'll see superbolts discharged. So just plan on seeing amazing lightning theatrics, we'll call it, during the end of days. So what do we do again? We do the philosophy of the end of days. We try to look at the Bible, look at prophecy, look at physics, true plasma physics, and the news, and try to make sense of it. With lightning and thunder being the topic today. So this is from Ben Davidson again, and so he's saying You will see more weather issues, health issues, seismic issues. You're going to see some extinctions occurring. You're going to see impactors and air bursts and glaciation paradoxes and magnetic reversal and nova isotopes. And so basically what he's describing now and later as we move closer to these end of days, two reasons for the magnetopause to shift closer to its surface. Solar activity is very high and Earth's magnetic field is weakening. Both of those things are occurring right now. You're noticing it. And you'll know the solar activity is high by the aurora borealis. It's not described in the Bible, but you observe it, so you know it's there, and it comes out of the poles, and it's a surge of solar activity. But then, on the other hand, the magnetic field is weakening. The ESA and NASA are both citing that, and so these are observable things. So when you see the aurora borealis hit, you know that you might see some increased weather activities. Okay. And if it occurs simultaneously, both the solar activity and the magnetic field weakening, you'll see these superbolts. Okay, so other things just to cite, our magnetic field could cause quakes, okay, as it changes. It may change faster also than we thought. So space weather events tend to be more prevalent in regions where the magnetic field is weak. Let's see, another rapid change is due to our magnetic field, and so it's going to shrinken, thin, so to speak, and weaken, and you'll just notice these black swan type of environmental events occurring. So get ready for it. Geomagnetic excursion is due when? Well, it's occurring right now, okay? The poles could start to flip, and what happens after that? And so lots of people are talking about it. So you'll have more radiation risks, you'll have food chain disruptions, electrical and tech disruptions. Water will be a big issue, people. The sun is going to be a huge issue during the end of days, and water too. So you'll have more cosmic rays. The last reversal, they're citing 772,000 to 774,000 years ago. Well, there are people saying that this happens every 6 to 12,000 years. So 6,000 for a minimal type of a flip and then 12,000 for a maximum. We seem to be right on pace for that, okay? So just get ready for it. And then another thing, so I cited ESA, that's the European Space Agency, saying there's an anomaly in the South Atlantic. It's a hole, okay? And so there's a dent in the Earth's magnetic field. And now I'm citing Isaiah 24, 17 through 21 as what God described it like. So terror pit and trap are upon you. You who are living on the earth, he who flees from the sound of the terror will fall into the pit. He who climbs up out of the pit will be caught in the trap, for the windows above have been opened. That's that ozone layer, the magnetosphere, and the earth's foundations shake, and that is earthquakes. And the earth cracks and breaks open. The earth crumbles to pieces. The earth trembles and totters. The earth staggers to and fro like a drunk, sways back and forth like a watchman's shelter. Its transgression, that's sin, weighs heavy upon it, and it will fall and not rise again. When that day comes, Adonai will punish the armies of the Marom, which is a level just above our heads, up to about the moon. So these armies, the Zava of the Marom, Ha-Marom, Ba-Marom. So of the Marom, that's where they belong, but then in the Marom, and also the kings of the earth. So just get ready for that as we hit the day of the Lord. You're going to have judgments against people, but also these, we'll call them fallen angels, just for lack of a better word. Now, this might be a shaman, Gnostic type opinion. The problem is it sounds scientific. The plasma physics professors that I'm going to cite the same thing. So the train is on the tracks. There was a strange way to leave it, but within a few decades, we will see a micronova of our sun. That's where the sun will go from yellow to white to red to black, and then literally a filament will break off the sun and it'll come crashing against us. It's going to be horrific. That's a micronova. The reversal of our magnetosphere, that oh goodness, I don't even know how to describe how bad that's going to be. Unlocking the crust and the tilt of the earth, tsunamis that sweep across continents, major earthquakes, volcanoes, extinction of 10 to 50% of the species. Human civilization will be hit hard because of our vulnerability due to extreme dependence on our technology, especially electricity. So will you survive the micronova? The North Pole is moving towards Siberia, and and the South Pole is left Antarctica, no doubt about that. The sun, he's citing it here, will turn technically from yellow to white, then red. Then when it hits black, you've got about 17 hours to seek shelter, okay? And keep in mind, you can't just go in there and stay, because with earthquakes, you need to go into a cave, then run back out, then run back in, then run back out. Depending upon what's happening, you're going to have to be intelligent about this, but you'll have time enough to prepare. Okay, so this is a book called Surviving the Micronova. This is all based on the electric universe theory. They call it Thunderbolt of the gods. And so a couple of guys named Talbot and Thornhill have talked about it for years. They introduced the reader to the former age of planetary instability and earth-shaking electrical events. Okay, Ben Davidson talks about it a lot. So there's Thornhill on the upper left. Then there's Talbot in the middle upper, and then their books, The Thunderbolts of the Gods, and Remembering the End of the World, and things like that. So the evidence they report shows an ancient obsession with the extremely violent electrical discharge formations in the heavens. At the core of this reconstruction lies the unique behavior of plasma. Plasma physics. Plasma, often called the fourth state of matter, has been studied for less than 100 years. It's really very recent, and in recent decades of the space age have the physics professors begun to realize its importance to the understanding of the structure in space produced by electrical currents. So that's what's happening. These guys are just observing plasma physics. Okay. So Fred Hoyle is one of the guys. I don't think he's with us anymore, but he's saying these currents can pinch and push matter together. Okay, and so according to Fred Hoyle, he says plasma experiments show that the rotation is a natural function of interacting currents in plasma. Currents can pinch matter together to form rotating stars and galaxies. A good example is the ubiquitous spiral galaxy, a predictable configuration of cosmic scale discharge. Computer models of two current filaments interacting in plasma have, in fact, reproduced fine details of spiral galaxies, where the gravitational schools must rely on invisible matter arbitrarily placed wherever it is needed to make their models work. Well, plasma works better overall for what the universe looks like. So Fred Hoyle is brilliant, obviously. Anthony Peratt is brilliant, too. The physics of the plasma universe. So today, many scientists recognize plasma as the key element into understanding new observations in near-Earth interplanetary, interstellar, and intergalactic space, in stars, galaxies, and clusters of galaxies, and throughout the observable universe. Physics of the Plasma Universe, the second edition, it talks about the cosmic electromagnetic spectrum over 2 decades. So Pratt's book, of physics in the plasma universe, talks about high energy plasma behavior and the role of electricity in the cosmos, due in a large part to the Coalition of Plasma Science, where Peratt is a member, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. And so it's really physics professors just understanding basic electricity. Okay, and then another guy, Robert Skoke. And so plasma and solar outbursts at the end of the last ice age. So he's one of those guys that says there have been these events and they seem to match up about every 6,000 years and 12,000 years. And so these climate fluctuations occur. So they're documenting them, and it seems to make sense, and they're finding them, and I'll show you exactly why. Well, I'll describe it to you. These lightning bolts will carve and burn rocks, and they can find them, and they can pretty much date them, okay? So the Carrington event seems to have kicked this off. That's 1859, when the sun burst out a huge, I think it was an X40 type of an exchange, and so overcharged fields while compressing and causing to discharge superbolts downward toward humanity. So it's going to get worse. So Peratt talks about that. Skoke talks about that. Ben is describing that in this picture here, which is from this article, Impact of Changing Stellar and Planetary Magnetic Fields on Exoplanetary Environments and Atmospheric Mass Loss. So basically they're saying well, I'll just read it to you, okay? So once again, the magnetic activity of a star, which modulates the stellar wind outflow, shapes the immediate environments of orbiting planets and induces atmospheric loss, thereby impacting their habitability. That's our habitability. Okay, we perform a detailed parameter space study using three-dimensional hydrodynamic simulations to understand the effects of changing stellar wind magnetic field and planetary magnetic field strengths on planetary magnetic topology and atmospheric losses. Okay, so they're trying to figure out what forces the magnetopause to shift closer to the surface. And it seems to be electric universe, guys. It seems to be those two things that I cited before, which is that thinning and then also a thinning of magnetosphere and then also extra activity from the sun. So get ready for it because that's what God's talking about in Revelation. They will discharge downward towards Earth too much energy while getting squeezed too closely to the planet, and they discharge downward. This is coming during the ongoing magnetic shift of Earth. So that's Ben Davidson again. So let's talk about it in the Bible. Okay, so bringing forth lightnings, voices, and thunderings. So this is Revelation chapter 4. This is before you get into the 7 seals. Okay, surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and on the throne sat 24 elders, Presbyterians, I'm kidding, there's Presbyterios, dressed in white clothing and wearing gold crowns on their heads. From the throne came forth lightnings, voices, and thunderings. Before the throne were 7 flaming torches, which are the sevenfold Spirit of God. In front of the throne was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. In the center, around the throne, were 4 living beings covered with eyes in front and behind. That's Revelation 4. So then you go in to the 7 seals, and they end by Revelation 8:4. And so you'll see heaven open up the next time. So this is Revelation 8. On the gold altar, in front of the throne, the smoke of the incense went up with the prayers of God's people from the hand of the angel before God. Then the angel took the incense bowl, filled it with fire from the altar, threw it down onto the earth, and there were followed peals of thunder, voices, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Now the 7 angels with the 7 shofars prepared to sound them. So then the next thing up is the 7 trumpets. No event like this where heaven seems to open up and you see lightning and thunder and voices and earthquakes. That doesn't seem to occur during the 7 trumpets. So what are the 7 trumpets? The first 4 are very natural. They really affect our environment in a natural, explainable way. The last 3 are called woes, and they don't make any sense at all, and they're absolutely horrific. And so there doesn't seem to be an opening of heaven during this time frame, going through the 7 trumpets. So I would assume that it's related to before and after. So you'll notice these lightning effects before and after the trumpets. Okay. And then we move forward to after the trumpets now. So we're in Revelation 11, 18 through 19. The Goyim raged, the Gentiles. But now your rage has come, the time for the dead to be judged, the time for rewarding your servants, the prophets, and your holy people, those who stand in awe of your name, both small and great. It was also time for destroying those who destroy the earth. Then the temple, that's the naos again of God in heaven, was opened, and the Ark of the Covenant was seen in his naos, and that's the Holy of Holies, and there were flashes of lightning, voices, peals of thunder, and an earthquake and violent hail, but not the great earthquake yet, and this isn't the 7th trumpet, the final trumpet, the great trumpet, so to speak, and so you just move now into the bowls in chapter 16. And will you see Superbolts during that time frame? I don't know. But you'll see 70-pound hailstones, so that's going to be an issue. So I asked Ben Davidson the other day, he didn't answer this. If our magnetopause was compressed to the point of causing superbolts, would you also see large hail? Because that's Revelation 16, 17 through 21. He didn't answer it. The 7th one poured out his bowl into the air, and the loud voice came from the temple, the naos again, from the throne, saying, "It is done." There were flashes of lightning, voices, and peals of thunder, and there was a massive earthquake, such as never occurred since mankind has been on earth. So violent was the earthquake. The great city was split into 3 parts. The cities of the nations fell, and God remembered Babel the great, and made her drink the wine from the cup of his raging fury. Every island fled, and no mountains were to be found. A huge, in this case, 100-pound or 70-pound, depends upon how you translate it, hailstones fell on people from the sky. But the people cursed the God for the plague of hail. That was such a terrible plague. So once again, God opens up heaven at specific times. Revelation 4, Revelation 8, Revelation 11, Revelation 17, but not during the seven trumpets and at the tail end now of the bowls. So if they're linear, that's what's going on. Once again, this shows you all the verses here. If you want to pause for a moment to take a peek, you'll see a couple of Old Testament verses that are interesting. As I mentioned, Exodus 19, and then Deuteronomy 32, which is interesting. That's Moses' song. But then you'll see in Matthew and a little bit in Matthew again in Luke and Luke again, and then Revelation, as I had cited before. That's lightning, astrape on the left-hand side, then bronte, like brontosaurus on the right-hand side. And the verses there are Mark and John, and then it's all Revelation after that. So mostly the lightning and the thunder are found in Revelation. There are a couple of other Greek words to use with lightning, but I just wanted to cite the two that are the most common and pop up. So I just want you to be aware most of the references come in Revelation for lightning, astrape, or bronte, thunder. So what's going to happen during the next few years? You're going to have more space weather and magnetic reversal issues. You're going to have increased lightning, possibly thunderbolt strikes, okay, those massive lightning bolts. Then increased radiation, UV risks, increased earthquakes, mental instability, food chain disruptions, and they'll be driven by cosmic issues. And you're going to notice electrical and tech disruptions, water evaporation, horrible water issues, increased space debris penetration, especially during the first four of the trumpets, and then animal migration, confusion, unsafe air travels. If you're in a plane when these things are occurring, you'll probably drop. Wealthy will hide above and below. They'll hide all the way through. Keep in mind, too, when you talk about plasma physics, the demons understand plasma physics. When you are dealing with sleep paralysis or shadow dancing, in most cases, demons are just throwing a plasma at you. So they seem to understand how to create a plasma and confuse you. I have seen basically what I saw was the lower left-hand side, which is Brock from Space Ghost. I saw something like that, whatever, incubus, succubus type of a thing back in 2006. And unfortunately, my son saw the shadow dancing, and he told him, "We live in the light, we thrive in the dark, be around friends, and we won't come back." That changed his life, which is too bad. So bottom line is that demons understand plasma physics. They do. They can create a plasma. So just be aware of it. We're in the birth pangs. We're not in the tribulation. We're not in the great tribulation. I'm arguing based on where I see things happening, you won't see these thunderbolts until probably during the bowl phase. So during the trumpet phase, God doesn't open up the heavens, and then it seems to be at the end. But there are these times, possibly earlier on, where you'll notice more thunderbolts, and that might be that God has already timed it out so that it'll look very natural and explainable in cosmic physics, but it'll be a sign from God of, Revelation chapter 4 or Revelation chapter 8 or Revelation chapter 11 or 16, one of those instances as we move through. So you need to work on you, which is repentance. And what kind of garments are you going to wear? Hopefully they're clean for Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or even Sukkot. It's going to be a wedding, people. Get ready for that. So be blessed. Thank you very much for your time, and be careful for lightning bolts. God bless. Bye-bye.